we will start with accounting standard number 10. We'll do it from the supplementary material issued by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You have to understand a concept. Whenever a new standard comes up, base material to be picked up is ICAI's material, because standard deals with variety of things in great detail. I'll require 2 lectures to cover up the standard in detail, because there are a lot of new things that have been introduced by this standard. It's very, very interesting. I'll require 2 lectures to cover up the concepts and few problems, maybe more than 2 lectures to cover up additional problems, depending on how brain levels cope up with the concepts. Accounting standard number 10 earlier was dealing with fixed assets, and there was accounting standard number 6 dealing with depreciation, which you people have done in CPT, some of you. Accounting standard number 6 stands deleted now. Accounting standard number 10 stands amended completely. Old standard is completely deleted. Not even a single line from the old standard has been kept. Now, for understanding purpose, ICAI has prepared a supplementary material, but I always like bare text of accounting standard to be referred also. You should download both these files, or I'll give you these files also right now, right away. This is, you can download it from ICAI's website. I'll give you the link. On ICAI's website, go to the students, go to Board of Studies Knowledge Portal, within that IPCC, within that Group 1 accounts, within that you will find out supplementary material on AS10. This is one that you are supposed to take it, or if required, let me put up in your Telegram group, so you can share it also. So I'm putting that supplementary material of Institute, which is prepared by the Board of Studies of ICAI, and I'll also give you bare text. Bare text could be little difficult at IPCC level to digest, but if you keep proper patience and you are ready to understand a complicated and technical English, you do have a capability to understand even the bare text of the standards. All the standards are, and the bare text is given in accounting standards part. So resources of ICAI's website, there is accounting standards. Within accounting standards, there are multiple things. You should look out for accounting standards notified by central government under Companies Act at the bottom. Within that, there is Accounting Standard Rules, Amendment Rules 2016. Now those rules should take you to Ministry of Corporate Affairs website, and those rules give you basically Bharat Ka Rajpatra. And in this, there is a detailed AS10, pehle Hindi mein, and then it is in English. This is AS10 plus other standards also. Many standards have been amended by the government. English kahi to kahi chalu hoga. This is English has started. So like this, there are changes that are made. Now only AS10 if you want. Let me just give you only AS10. Just a minute. only AS10 का फाइल नहीं है, that is all the standards amendment जितने भी standards में किया है उनके फाइल्स है यहाँ पर. I expect silence. So I'll share all the standards का file also. File is not bigger. It's in English only. हिंदी का वाला file नहीं दिया मैंने आपको. So before I proceed ahead with explanation on AS10, some basic background required for accounting standards. Let me explain. Basic. I'll not go in too much of detail. Too much of detail. Basic introduction to standard I am going to cover at the end. Because normally I observed introduction to standards at the beginning does not give you complete understanding because you don't know ABCD of the working of the standards. So process of making standards and other things I'll be covering at the end. Core standards let me discuss first. I shared both the files to you on Telegram also for your reference. Okay. Now, I'll share this file with annotations also, whatever writings I'm going to do. After all my writings and the examples also, whatever file is generated, that file also I will share with you. Listen up carefully. Accounting standards are basically rules created for harmonizing different accounting policies. There are various different accounting policies available on multiple areas like investment accounting. Multiple policies are possible. Accounting for the fixed assets, multiple policies are possible. In order to standardize the policies across business entities, ICAI has been entrusted way back in 1977 to form accounting standards or to issue accounting standards. Since 1977, ICAI formed Accounting Standard Board. Till date, ICAI has done a great service to the nation by issuing multiple standards. Around 32 standards have been issued by the institute over a period of time. However, in the last few years, the situations have undergone a dramatic change in terms of accounting standards. 1977 to 2006, I'll say life was quite easy because there is only one authority which had authority to issue standards, that is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. But since then, due to the globalization you can say, or due to the, let's say, more requirements of the business entities or the users, the accounting field has got little complicated. If I to divide all business entities, I can divide a business entity into corporate entities or corporates and non-corporates. Initially, from 1977 to 2006, there was no concept of separate accounting standard for corporates and non-corporates. Corporates are companies. Non-corporates are sole proprietors, partnership firms, HUFs or other things. There is no two different concepts. There's one single concept of uniform accounting standards for all. However, in 2006, Government of India introduced accounting standards in the company law for the first time by having Companies Accounting Standard Rules 2006. And those rules were applied to all the companies registered in India. And that created a divide in accounting standards. Because till then, accounting standards were issued by the institute only, and that point of time, government issued the standards for the first time. Till then, before 2006, government used to say, standards notified by ICAI shall be followed by companies. But 2006 में एक झटका लगा. But 2006 का झटका इतना बड़ा नहीं था. Because government had literally copied ICAI's accounting standards, and there were no great differences between standards of Government of India and the standards which were issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. But as time progressed, differences between the standards issued by the institute and the standards issued by government kept on increasing, though the standards issued by the government were after consulting ICAI only. There is a body that the Government of India has formed called as a National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards, NACAS. So within ICAI, there is a body called the Accounting Standard Board, which issues the standards. Within Government of India, there is a body called as a NACAS. ICAI's representatives are there on National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards also. But as on date, there are differences between accounting standards issued by the institute, which are for non-corporate entities, and accounting standards which are issued by Government of India for corporate entities. For corporate entities, Companies Act 2013 applies now. Companies Act 2013, section number 133 to the Act basically talks about accounting standards. Section 133 has divided companies into two parts: prescribed companies and non-prescribed company. Prescribed company and what? Non-prescribed company. Prescribed companies are basically large companies. Non-prescribed companies are small and medium scale enterprises. Government of India has created two sets of accounting standards, which are called as AS here and which are called as Ind AS here. For large companies, Government of India has prescribed Ind AS. These are basically compatible with IFRS, which are made mandatory to certain business entities. But India has not adopted IFRS as it is. There are certain differences between IFRS and Ind AS. So basically, in terms of formula, Ind AS is equal to IFRS minus carve outs plus carve in. Carve outs are certain things which are there in IFRS but not there in Ind AS. Carve ins are certain things which are not there in IFRS but which are there in Ind AS. There are certain things which have been changed by Government of India to adjust India's economic environment. IFRS are basically global one, but India has not copied them as it is. India has made certain changes, not in terms of principles as such, but there are certain points where Indian taxation system is not compatible with the global taxation systems prevalent or economic environment. That's why IFRS are not taken as it is. So large companies are governed by Ind AS. This entire Ind AS are not in IPCC syllabus at all. So IPCC syllabus does not talk about Ind AS at all. Not even one line is required to be studied on Ind AS. IPCC syllabus only talks about accounting standards. Now, accounting standards which are issued by Government of India and accounting standards issued by ICAI for non-corporate entities. So I just use the word, both are called as accounting standards. Both I'll denote by AS into bracket ICAI and I'll say AS into bracket Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now ये दोनों जो है ना बहुत similar है. The differences between the two are very few. But there are few items where the differences are there. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is already in process to harmonize the differences. Majority of the differences are already harmonized by the institute in its meeting held on 16th and 17th of August 2016, 359th meeting of ICAI. Majority amendments which were done by the MCA. Significant amendments were done by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in March 2016. So there are a lot of amendments made in March 2016 to the Ind AS. But these amendments, the problem was, amendments were made for the companies by the Government of India. But these amendments were not made in accounting standards issued by ICAI. ICAI has adopted majority of the amendments in August 2017. Amendments were accepted by the institute in 2016, my mistake. August 2016 में ICAI ने amendment approve किए, ICAI के सेंट्रल काउंसिल ने. बट स्टूडेंट्स के लिए एप्लीकेबिलिटी के लिए बहुत सारा कंफ्यूजन था कि एग्जाम के लिए क्या अप्लाई होगा. नवंबर 2016 एग्जाम वेंट अहेड विद द ओल्ड स्टैंडर्ड्स ओनली. मई 17 के लिए भी एम्बिग्यूटी था. वो एम्बिग्यूटी अभी इंस्टीट्यूट ने ऑलरेडी क्लियर किया है. बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूट हैज ऑलरेडी सेड that all the amendments that are done by the government and the ICAI consequently are applicable to syllabus of May 2017 exam and thereafter. So that means for November 17 all these amendments are applicable. If any further amendment takes place till 30th April 2017, that will also be applicable to November 17 exam. Likelihood of such amendment now is lesser. 0.00001% probability is there now. But all the amendments that are done to the majority of the standards are applicable to both May 17 exam, November 17 exam and thereafter also. So right now I am discussing a completely amended standard, accounting standard number 10. We are not going to discuss Ind AS. We are going to discuss accounting standards. Now, accounting standard of MCA and accounting standard of ICAI, differences are minor. Differences are cosmetic. They are not major differences because both are aimed at small and medium scale enterprises primarily. They are not aimed at global companies. They are not aimed at large business houses. They are aimed at SME sector. So that's why there are majority of the things are similar. Now, the most important change that was made by the Government of India in March 2016 was they deleted accounting standard 6 dealing with depreciation. They merged that depreciation principles with accounting standard 10 dealing with the fixed asset. But principles of fixed asset standard also have undergone a change, and today the revised standard is known as AS10 property, plant and equipment. So property, plant and equipment is old AS10 plus old accounting standard 6. लेकिन इनमें principles में बहुत सारे change हो चुके हैं. So I will say we will not learn anything old at all. There are some points where you could get a references of A6. There are some things which are similar, like depreciation is calculated by taking cost of a asset, useful life of asset and scrap value into consideration. Now ये जो point है, this is common. So that is quite easy, quite acceptable also. So one may go ahead with understanding of these different standards. Let's understand. We go ahead with understanding of AS10. Property, plant and equipment. Now this is dealing with tangible fixed assets as well as it is dealing with providing depreciation on tangible fixed assets. It is dealing with what? Both accounting of fixed asset as well as what? Depreciation on tangible fixed asset. Both the issues are covered by accounting standard number 10. Which both the issues? Number 1, accounting for purchase of fixed asset as well as depreciation and other related areas. But instead of using the word fixed asset, a broader word has been used, property, plant and equipment, which basically gives you an indication of only tangible assets. Because for intangible assets, we have a separate standard altogether, accounting standard 26, covered in the group number 2 of the syllabus. Let us go ahead. Before you understand any standard provisions, you have to listen and you have to understand scope. What does it cover? The principal objective of the standard is to prescribe the treatment for property, plant and equipment. The principal issues of accounting of property, plant, equipment are recognition of asset. तो क्या-क्या हम discuss करने वाले chapter में? First, recognition of asset. Recognition of asset मतलब when do I account for an purchase of asset, or how do I account for self-constructed asset? It's not necessary that I buy the asset always. I could be purchasing asset from somewhere also. Or yes, no? Yes. Or I could be making it on my own. Number 2, determination of their carrying amount. Carrying amount is a book value of asset. How am I going to determine the book amount? Depreciation and impairment loss, that is decline in the value of asset. So how do I recognize asset initially? How do I show the asset in the balance sheet? That is carrying amount. Carrying amount का मतलब क्या बोला मैंने? Book value. So book value of asset should be also taken into consideration. Carrying amount is what? Book value of an asset. So 3 things are covered in AS10. Number 1, recognition. Number 2, carrying amount. And number 3, depreciation and impairment losses. Out of which depreciation is covered in detail by this standard itself. Impairment loss calculation is actually not covered by AS10 in detail. There is a separate standard for impairment loss called as accounting standard number 28. Impairment is decline in a value of an asset. I'll explain impairment when the relevant point comes up. तो asset का purchase हम record कैसे करेंगे? Asset का related depreciation कैसे provide करेंगे? Carrying amount कैसे करेंगे? All these things I'm going to discuss in one go, one by one. Scope of the standard. क्या cover किया है standard के अंदर? As a general principle, in general, AS10 should be applied in what? Accounting for property, plant and equipment. Which property? Tangible, obviously. Exception: when another accounting standard requires or permits a different accounting treatment, obviously this standard will not apply. Let me give an exception. Exception के ऊपर example देता हूं. Interest on loan, PPE is property, plant, equipment. Interest on loan up to the date of installation is capitalized. Capitalized means added to the cost of asset as per AS 16. Interest on asset up to the date of installation of asset is capitalized, is added to the cost of asset. Now that is not as per AS 10, that is as per AS 16. Impairment loss for decline in the value of asset is accounted as per AS 28. It is an exception. So when another accounting standard requires a different treatment, you go as per that standard. When you import a fixed asset or when you purchase asset out of foreign currency loan, the exchange difference that can arise on a loan is governed by accounting standard 11. Don't look out for AS 10 in such case. So AS 10 applies for all the issues related to the tangible assets other than the issues covered by other standards. So I gave you 3 examples. AS 11 बोलता है कि अगर आपने फॉरेन करेंसी में लोन लिया और लोन के ऊपर एक्सचेंज डिफरेंस आ गया तो वो एक्सचेंज डिफरेंस का जो अकाउंटिंग है वो कैसे करेंगे. दैट इज गिवन बाय हुम? AS 11, एक्सचेंज डिफरेंस का अकाउंटिंग. Number 2, AS 16, which talks about interest on borrowed amount. Number 3, impairment loss is talked about by AS 28. तो उन चीजों में AS 10 apply नहीं होगा. और एक exception बोलता हूं. There are certain assets which are not tangible assets, but they are not covered in AS 10 because separate principles are required. For example, Chitale Milk is a company. Chitale Milk Private Limited, whatever the name of the company. Chitale Milk Private Limited is what? A company. They have got, let's say, 500 cows. A cow is a tangible asset. Am I right? Now, that particular tangible asset is excluded from this particular standard. Biological assets are excluded from this particular standard, which includes agriculture and animals, because there is a separate standard already in preparation. Draft has already been issued by the institute and that is likely to be notified soon. Probability for May and November 17 exams is lesser, but it could come up later. So ICAI has right now excluded cows, or you could have other kind of animals like Venki's ke case, Venkateshwara hatcheries ke case mein they could have chickens, but chickens get covered as an inventory. Unka life 12 महीने से आगे नहीं होता है. Because for being called as a fixed asset, you should have long-term life. आगे definition में आएगा. But there are a lot of businesses which have animals as their asset. Those animals, though the tangible asset, they are not covered by this standard. They are covered by some other standard. So whatever is covered by other standard is excluded. लॉजिक को बहुत सिंपल है. एक ही चीज के ऊपर अगर 2 स्टैंडर्ड में 2 अलग अलग रूल है तो कंफ्लिक्ट हो जाएगा ना. हमें कंफ्लिक्ट नहीं चाहिए. This standard does not apply to. AS 10 is not applicable to. Now यहाँ पर उन्होंने चार्ट के फॉर्म में लिखा है बायोलॉजिकल एसेट, ब्रैकेट मत पढ़ो, related to agricultural activity. Biological assets related to agricultural activity because there is a separate standard likely to come up for agriculture. It is not applicable to, I'll come up on this, have patience, it's a very important point to understand. It is not applicable to vesting asset including mineral rights. Vesting assets are assets which keep on declining, like natural resources, they are limited. You find a mine for coal, अब उसके अंदर coal कितना एक limit होता है. It's a vesting asset. Slowly over a period of time, the quantity of coal is going to decline. So it is not applicable to vesting assets including mineral rights or expenditure incurred on exploration for or extraction of minerals or oil or natural gas or other similar non-regenerative resources. Non-regenerative है, crude oil कितना है, coal कितना है, copper कितना है माइन के अंदर, वो एक फिक्स होता है. ऐसे copper का प्रोडक्शन नहीं कर सकते आप. जमीन के अंदर कितना कॉपर है उतना ही है, आप कॉपर की बारिश नहीं गिरा सकते हो. तो vesting assets are the assets where there are natural resources which basically are available in a limited quantity. बोल रहे सर कितने साल तक चलेगा सर? Why are you taking tension? Scientists will find out the solution for that if it is over. That's why people are coming up with alternative sources of energy. कि ये जो natural resources है ये कभी ना कभी exhaust हो जाएंगे, तब mankind क्या करेगा? तो उसके लिए अलग साइंटिस्ट वालों का काम है. अपना काम क्या है? अकाउंटिंग करना है. सो वेस्टिंग असेट्स के लिए ये स्टैंडर्ड एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. आप बोलेगे फिर कहां पर जाएंगे वेस्टिंग असेट्स के लिए? देयर इज अ सेपरेट गाइडेंस नोट अवेलेबल फॉर अकाउंटिंग ऑफ दिस. In addition to accounting standard, ICAI issues guidance notes on certain matters. So there is a guidance note available on vesting assets. So there is a separate guidance note. We'll have to discuss the provisions of that separate guidance note also. मैंने लेफ्ट हैंड साइड एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया. AS10 applies to bearer plant, but it does not apply to produce on bearer plants. नहीं एक्सप्लेन किया मैंने. AS10 applies to property, plant and equipment used to develop or maintain the assets described above. नहीं एक्सप्लेन किया. Investment property should be accounted in accordance with cost model prescribed in this standard. एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया. स्कोप में समझ लो. तीनों चीजें एक्सप्लेन करना है वन बाय वन. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड बायोलॉजिकल असेट. AS10 does not apply to biological assets related to agricultural activity. Please remember one principle that I followed significantly. For complicated areas, you should always refer bare text so that you form your own opinion. अब ये जो वहां पर लिखा था ना मॉड्यूल में, वो मॉड्यूल का कॉपी था. इट वाज एक्सप्लेनेशन बाय बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज. बट बेयर टेक्स्ट जो होता है वो हमेशा हमेशा चार्ट वगैरह फॉर्म में नहीं होता है. दैट इज इन अ टेक्सचुअल फॉर्म. सो आई कम डाउन टू बेयर टेक्स्ट ऑफ AS10. आई थिंक आई गॉट इट. So bare text of AS10, this is a bare text. Property, plant, equipment. अब इसमें स्कोप में लिखा है. In every accounting standard there are some paragraphs which are in bold italic, which are main portion of the standard, and normal font which is the explanation paragraphs. अभी देखो, bold italics में paragraph number 2 लिखा हुआ है. The standard should be applied in accounting for property, plant and equipment except when another accounting standard requires or permits a different treatment. तो अगर दूसरा स्टैंडर्ड है तो यहां पे मत आओ. अगर दूसरा कहीं पे भी अकाउंटिंग के बारे में नहीं लिखा है, प्रॉपर्टी, प्लांट, इक्विपमेंट के अकाउंटिंग के बारे में, बाकी कौन से भी स्टैंडर्ड में कुछ भी नहीं लिखा है, तो यहां पर आओ और फिर ये स्टैंडर्ड का प्रिंसिपल्स आप पढ़ो और अप्लाई करो. The standard does not apply to biological assets related to agricultural activity. Take a pause. बायोलॉजिकल एसेट्स रिलेटेड टू एग्रीकल्चर, उनको ये स्टैंडर्ड अप्लीकेबल नहीं है क्योंकि अलग स्टैंडर्ड आने वाला है बहुत जल्द. अदर देन बेरर प्लांट, एग्रीकल्चर में बेरर प्लांट करके कंसेप्ट होता है, वो सीखना है. मतलब बेरर प्लांट के लिए स्टैंडर्ड डज नॉट अप्लाई. डज नॉट अप्लाई के अंदर डज नॉट अप्लाई, मतलब निगेटिव निगेटिव पॉजिटिव. सो एक सिंपल लॉजिक करते हैं. बायोलॉजिकल असेट्स दो टाइप के होते हैं बच्चों. बेरर प्लांट, बायोलॉजिकल असेट्स ऑफ रिलेटेड टू एग्रीकल्चर, बायोलॉजिकल असेट्स रिलेटेड टू एग्रीकल्चर. दो टाइप के होते हैं. बेरर प्लांट, क्या है बेरर प्लांट एक्सप्लेन करता हूं, संयम रखो. एंड अदर असेट्स, अदर्स के लिए AS10 नॉट अप्लीकेबल. उनके लिए एग्रीकल्चर का स्टैंडर्ड, अभी नंबर क्या आएगा मालूम नहीं मुझे, बट मोस्ट प्रोबेबली इट विल बी AS33 और 34 न्यू स्टैंडर्ड. व्हाई टू गिव अ नंबर, हु एम आई टू गिव अ नंबर. हाँ, न्यू अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड आएगा यहां पर. अदर असेट्स के लिए, बेरर प्लांट के लिए कौन सा स्टैंडर्ड है, AS10. So, standard does not apply to biological assets related to agriculture other than the bearer plants, full stop. This standard applies to bearer plant, but it does not apply to the produce on the bearer plant. Bearer plant is covered, but the produce on the bearer plant is others category. अब क्या है ये bearer plant? Definition है आगे. सिंपल एग्जांपल लेता हूं. I am MRF. I have got a huge rubber farm जहां पर रबर ट्रीज है. रबर ट्रीज से लेटेक्स तैयार. रबर ट्री उसके सब पिन मारते हैं, उसे लेटेक्स निकलता है, उससे रबर बनता है. रबर इज एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस और लेटेक्स उससे जो भी निकलता है, हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं उसको? रबर नहीं होता डायरेक्ट रबर नहीं निकलता है, ऐसा गम के जैसा. अरे हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं उसको? हिंदी आई डोंट, आपको इंग्लिश समझा आपको? ऐसे व्हाइट कलर का रहता है और उसको ऐसा पिन मार के ऐसे निकलता है, वो पाइप कैसे लगाता है उसको. वो जो है वो एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस हो गया. वो जो झाड़ है वो बेरर प्लांट हो गया. चलो आपको और सिंपल एग्जांपल दे दो. Coca-Cola has a mango farm so that they can make a maaza, right? Mango farm, mango tree is a bearer plant. Mangoes derived from that mango tree is a agriculture produce or is a produce of a bearer plant. Agriculture हो या कुछ भी हो, whatever. So standard किसको applicable नहीं है? Biological assets related to agriculture except bearer plant. Bearer plant को standard applicable है, लेकिन bearer plant से जो produce बनेगा उसको ये standard applicable नहीं है. Standard is also not applicable to vesting assets like mineral rights and other things, क्योंकि इसके लिए guidance नोड है. However, this standard applies to property, plant, equipment used to develop or maintain other assets. That I'll explain. I'll not explain. Other accounting standards may require recognition of item of property, plant, equipment based on approach different than this standard. That's okay. So I come back. मैंने पूरा explanation नहीं दिया. ये आपका basically आपको बेयर टेक्स्ट ज्यादा रेफर नहीं करना है. बेयर टेक्स्ट में आपको बीच-बीच में लिखते जाऊंगा सिर्फ. सब कुछ एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया मैंने. स्कोप अभी बहुत सारा एक्सप्लेन करना बाकी है और 4-5 कम से कम एग्जांपल आएंगे. So to whom the standard does not apply? Biological assets related to agriculture. Standard does not apply to mineral assets. Standard does not apply if any other standard already gives a provision. Standard does not apply to produce on bearer plant. Standard applies to bearer plant. Are you clear? Before I proceed, let us understand what is the meaning of bearer plant. And what is the meaning of a biological asset? Biological asset. An accounting standard on agriculture is under formulation which will inter alia cover accounting for livestock. Till that time, accounting standard on agriculture is issued. Accounting of livestock meeting the definition of PPE will be covered as per AS10. What is biological asset? Technical definition bare text में देखते हैं हम. Look at the biological asset का definition in a very simple language. Biological asset is a living animal और अ प्लांट. एनिमल या झाड़. लेकिन झाड़ के अंदर दो टाइप के झाड़ होते हैं, बेरर प्लांट एंड नॉट अ बेरर प्लांट. प्लांट के दो टाइप से, बेरर एंड नॉट अ बेरर. नॉट अ बेरर को डिफाइन नहीं किया, बेरर को डिफाइन किया हुआ. तो हम इसके बाद प्लांट देखेंगे. तो प्लांट इज नॉट प्लांट एंड मशीनरी वाला प्लांट. नो डिस्कशंस. बायोलॉजिकल एसेट का मतलब क्या? सिंपल, एनिमल, प्लांट. लिविंग एनिमल AS10 डज नॉट अप्लाई क्योंकि बायोलॉजिकल एसेट है ना. स्टैंडर्ड डज नॉट अप्लाई टू बायोलॉजिकल एसेट्स रिलेटेड टू एग्रीकल्चर. AS10 डज नॉट अप्लाई. एक्चुअली इसमें दो टाइप थे. लिविंग एनिमल इज बायोलॉजिकल एसेट, बट लिविंग एनिमल यू कैन यूज not necessarily for agriculture. For example, I have got horses which I'm using for racing activity. मेरा business है racing. I own horses. I stud farm बोलते हैं टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज उसको. मैं horses में ट्रेडिंग करता हूँ, horses का रेसिंग करता हूँ. तो वो जो एनिमल है, it is a biological asset, but it is not related to agriculture. What is excluded from the standard? मिस्टेक किया है यहाँ पर. What is excluded? ऊपर देखो. Please keep quiet. Biological asset related to agriculture are excluded. Biological asset not related to agriculture are included. ये सब के ऊपर हम समरी करेंगे. स्कोप के ऊपर ही आपको कम से कम क्या कवर्ड है और क्या कवर्ड नहीं है, यही सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है यहां पर. क्यों? जो चीज कवर्ड नहीं है उसके लिए प्रिंसिपल्स एप्लीकेबल ही नहीं है. So biological asset other than agriculture is covered within the standard. तो हर एक एनिमल को ये स्टैंडर्ड अप्लाई नहीं होगा. बट क्यों? लिविंग एनिमल एग्रीकल्चर के लिए भी हो सकता है, अदर देन एग्रीकल्चर के लिए भी हो सकता है. बट लिविंग एनिमल रिलेटेड टू एग्रीकल्चर इज गोइंग टू बी कवर्ड अंडर द न्यू स्टैंडर्ड. बट बेयर टेक्स्ट में अगर आपने देखा होगा, गवर्नमेंट ने एक लाइन लिखा है वहां पर स्टार करके, बायोलॉजिकल एसेट इज ए लिविंग एनिमल. वहां पर अगर आपने देखा ऊपर 1 नंबर लिखा है, और 1 नंबर में गवर्नमेंट ने एक थोड़ा सा टाइम बीइंग के लिए एक इश्यू कवर किया है. अब ये टाइम बीइंग के लिए इश्यू देखो. एन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड ऑन एग्रीकल्चर इज अंडर फॉर्मुलेशन विच विल कवर अकाउंटिंग फॉर लाइफ स्टॉक. That standard will take care of all animals. Till that time, the standard on agriculture is issued. Accounting for livestock, which meets the definition of property, plant, equipment, will be covered under AS10. Livestock permanently ये standard के अंदर नहीं रहेगा. Livestock या animals, animal livestock same. ये temporarily ये standard के अंदर covered है. परमानेंटली ये स्टैंडर्ड में ये लोग नहीं रहने वाले हैं. सो बायोलॉजिकल असेट which is in the form of living animal, AS10 applies. टेम्पररी प्लांट के अंदर 2 टाइप के प्लांट होते हैं, बेरर एंड अदर्स के लिए AS10 अप्लीकेबल नहीं है. AS10 अप्लाइज ओनली टू बेरर प्लांट्स. कुछ समझा क्या आपको? अभी क्या है बेरर प्लांट का मतलब? बेरर प्लांट इज अ प्लांट विच सेटिस्फाइज all 3 conditions. First of all, it is used in the production or supply of agriculture produce. एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस बनाने के लिए ये प्लांट का इस्तेमाल होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, लेटेक्स इज अ काइंड ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस, है ना? यू हैव टी गार्डन. वो जो टी गार्डन में ट्री होता है, टी ट्री अलग है. टी चाय का गार्डन है, चाय नहीं बनता है वहां पर, चाय की पत्तियां रहती है. तो चाय के पत्तियों का जो झाड़ होता है वो प्लांट है. इट इज यूज इन द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ एन एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस. वो चाय की पत्ती जो है वो एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस है ना? द रूट ऑफ शुगर केन इज अ बेरर प्लांट विच इज यूज टू मेक अ शुगर केन. हिंदी में क्या बोलते मालूम नहीं है इसको. आपको समझा मैंने क्या बोला? शुगर केन का जब प्लांटिंग होता है ना, अरे गन्ना नहीं रहे, रूट ऑफ शुगर केन इज नॉट कॉल्ड एज गन्ना, यूजलेस. लिसन, bearer plant is a plant that is used in production or supply of an agriculture produce, and it is expected to bear the produce for more than 12 months. मतलब वो प्लांट के ऊपर more than 12 months तक एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस आने वाला है. Like mango tree are expected to have mangoes for more than 12 months. कोई मैंगो ट्री 12 महीने के अंदर खत्म नहीं होता. मैंगो ट्री का लाइफ 12 महीने से ज्यादा होता है, रबर ट्री का लाइफ 12 महीने से ज्यादा होता है, टी गार्डन में जो ट्री होता है चाय का, उसका लाइफ 12 महीने से ज्यादा होता है. बट वीट इज नॉट अ बेयरर प्लांट. वीट का जो झाड़ होता है उसमें वीट आता है, बट इट डजंट बेयर द वीट फॉर मोर देन 12 months. एक 4-5 महीने मैक्सिमम है ना. ओनियन इज नॉट अ बेयरर प्लांट. इट डजंट, ओनियन 12 महीने से ज्यादा नहीं रहता है. आप बोलेंगे व्हाट अबाउट शुगर केन सर? सम शुगर केन्स डू स्टे देयर फॉर मोर देन 12 months, but sugar cane is agricultural produce of the plant, that is root of the sugar cane that you have planted. आप शुगर केन प्लांट नहीं करते हो. शुगर केन एक छोटा सा, शुगर केन आपने कभी प्लांटेशन देखा होगा, एक छोटे से साइज का ऐसा कट आउट रहता है, इतना इतना, एंड देन यू प्लांट दैट एंड दैट ग्रोज एज अ शुगर केन. दैट डज नॉट ग्रो एज अ शुगर. यूजलेस पीपल. So that root can be called as a bearer plant. It bears the agriculture produce. Mango tree is a bearer plant. Mango is agriculture produce. Rubber tree is a bearer plant. It produces latex or rubber. Latter. आपको प्लांट और एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस का फर्क समझना है, क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस यहां पर कवर नहीं है. Bearer plant is a plant that is used in production of agriculture produce. It is expected to be used for more than 12 months. And it has a remote likelihood of being sold as agriculture produce except as a scrap sale. Matlab, mango tree is not going to be sold as agriculture produce. It will be sold as agriculture produce. It is a remote possibility. When the life of the plant comes to an end, you may cut the mango tree and you may sell wood of the mango tree. मतलब, I have got a mango garden. That mango garden is a bearer plant for me. उससे agriculture produce बनता है. So classic example of a bearer plant is a mango garden. Mango समझ लो आप, मेरे वही समझ में आया सर, आपको mango ही समझ में आएगा. अभी चेक करो तीनों कंडीशन फुलफिल हो रहा है क्या? Mango garden is used in the production of agriculture produce. Yes, that is mangoes. Number 2, it is expected to bear the produce. Yes, it bears the mangoes for more than 12 months. आप बोलो सर एक मैंगो 12 महीने के कहां पर रहता है? अरे एक मैंगो 12 महीने के नहीं बात कर रहे हैं. Over it is going to give you the produce for more than 12 months. एक मैंगो का नहीं है ऐसे बोल रहे हैं. And it is like remote likelihood of being sold as agriculture produce. We don't sell the mango trees. We sell the mangoes. We may sell the trees in the end. मतलब वो mango tree मेरे लिए tangible asset बन गया. That mango tree I am going to show as an asset in the books of account. The income derived from mango produce is the income of agriculture produce. Just like your building being shown as an asset and the rent being shown as the income from the asset. Your mango trees being shown as an asset. कुछ समझा क्या? Note, when the bearer plants are no longer used to bear the produce, they might be cut down and sold as a scrap. For example, they are used as a firewood. Such incidental scrap sales should not prevent the plant from meeting the definition of bearer plant. कभी ना कभी तो हम बेचेंगे उसको, but just because we are going to sell it at some point of time does not mean you don't show it as an asset. You should show that as an asset. Following are not the bearer plant. Example दे कि bearer plant नहीं है उसके example. Plants cultivated or harvested as agriculture produce. Wheat is a classic example. Wheat is a classic example. Wheat is cultivated or harvested as an agriculture produce. For example, trees grown for use as a lumber. मतलब lumber मतलब आग में या plywood में या teak wood. तो हमारा काम है ये कि वो जो trees हमने grow किया है, we are not going to hold that tree for producing produce. Teak wood पता है? घर में फर्नीचर के लिए आता है. वो जो trees लगाते हैं, these trees are not treated as a bearer plant because they are not going to be held for producing an output. They themselves are output. Bearer plant is something which is going to produce an output. Plants cultivated to produce agriculture produce when there is more than remote likelihood that the entity will also harvest and sell the plant as agricultural produce. For example, trees which are cultivated both for their fruit as well as their lumber. मतलब हम चलो ट्री है हमारे पास, बट जैसे ही ट्री को कुछ फ्रूट आएगा हम फ्रूट भी निकाल लेंगे और ट्री भी कट करके हम उसको यूज करेंगे फॉर पर्पज ऑफ फर्नीचर और प्लाईवुड. Then that is not treated as an bearer plant. Annual crops like maize and wheat are not treated as what? Bearer plant. Agricultural produce is a harvested product of a biological asset of an enterprise. Agriculture biological asset मतलब plant. वो plant का जो produce है harvested करके, harvesting करके या जो care वगैरह लेके आपने जो बनाया है वो क्या बन गया? Agricultural produce बन गया. Agricultural activity is management of by the enterprise of biological transformation and harvest of biological asset for sale or for conversion into agriculture produce or into additional biological asset. In simple language, agricultural activity मतलब anything that you do with plants and animals so as to earn certain income by way of selling the agricultural produce or selling that agricultural assets. हाँ, खत्म नहीं हुआ अभी तक स्कोप. हमने सिर्फ डेफिनेशन समझ ली ब्रीफ में. अब ये डेफिनेशंस को मुझे जोड़ना है. बायोलॉजिकल एसेट का डेफिनेशन सीख लिया आपने. क्या है बायोलॉजिकल एसेट? इज इक्वल टू बायोलॉजिकल एसेट इज इक्वल टू प्लांट एंड एनिमल्स. बेरर प्लांट समथिंग विच इज गोइंग टू produce agricultural output and it is going to bear the agricultural produce for more than 12 months and it is not likely to be sold as a scrap except at the time of end of useful life. कि मुझे मालूम है कि मैंगो ट्री 4-5 साल तक ही मैंगो देता है, उसके बाद देता नहीं है. Assume, I don't know what is the period. I don't know for how many years mango tree gives it mangoes. There could be decline in the productivity. Or let's say I have got lemon trees, which is a bearer plant ka example. We understood coconut trees also, coconut gardens. Agricultural activity. Come back. ये बीच में जो चीजें थी वो हमने कवर नहीं की. Definition of property plant equipment करेंगे. स्कोप समझ लो पहले. I expect complete silence. This standard should be applied for accounting of plant, property and equipment except the areas which are covered by other standard. This standard should not be applied. Should not be applied for biological assets related to agriculture. However, this standard should be applied for bearer plant. This standard should also be applied for livestock or animals for the time being, which meet the definition of property, plant and equipment. Time being के लिए ultimately ये जो plant animals जो है, animals सब नए standard में जाएंगे जब वो standard आएगा तब. But time being के लिए animals are covered under, livestock is covered under this standard, provided they meet the definition of property, plant, equipment. वो definition मैंने अभी तक सिखाया नहीं. Third point पे definition हो. Vesting assets के लिए standard applicable नहीं है. Standard applies to bearer plant, but it does not apply to produce on bearer plant. Produce from bearer plant is not a fixed asset. It's an income derived from the fixed asset. Mango tree is a fixed asset or mango tree is a PPE. But the mangoes cannot be called as a PPE. Mango आपने produce किया, mango is like an inventory. मैडम आपको सोना है तो बाहर जाइए क्लास के बाद. आपको अगर दर्द हो रहा है तो डॉक्टर के पास जाइए. नहीं तो 90 degrees में, 90 degrees straight. That is 87. और चश्मा पहने, दिखता नहीं आपको कुछ. So standard does not apply to agricultural produce that you derive from the bearer plant. That mangoes that you are going to get is going to be treated as an inventory under accounting standard number 2, which we'll be discussing later. वो इन्वेंट्री है, प्रोड्यूस किया आपने मशीन से. जैसे मैं प्रोडक्ट बनाता हूं, लाइक लेट्स से देयर इज अ मशीनरी व्हिच मेक्स अ रिमोट्स. वो मशीन जो है वो प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट है, बट मशीन से जो रिमोट बन गया इट कैन नॉट बी कॉल्ड एज अ पीपीई. मशीन से जो रिमोट बन गया है वो क्या है, S2 में चला जाएगा. शर्ट मैन्युफैक्चर करने का मशीन है, शर्ट इज S2, मशीन विच स्टिचेस द शर्ट is S10. S10 applies to PPE used to develop or used to maintain assets described above. मतलब PPE प्लांट प्रॉपर्टी इक्विपमेंट को डेवलप करने के लिए, कंस्ट्रक्ट करने के लिए कुछ प्लांट प्रॉपर्टी इक्विपमेंट आपने यूज किया होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपकी कंपनी फैक्ट्री बनाना चाहती है. फैक्ट्री इज अ प्लांट प्रॉपर्टी इक्विपमेंट फॉर यू, बट वो फैक्ट्री के लिए आपको लैंड का लेवलिंग करना है. बहुत बड़ा फैक्ट्री आप डाल रहे हो, लैंड लेवलिंग का काम आप किसी आउटसाइडर को दे सकते हो कि ये लैंड का यहां पे डिगिंग करो, इसके यहां पर मिट्टी वगैरह ठीक से डाल के उसको लेवलिंग करो. आप बोलते हैं यार ये बाहर वाले को काम देखिए बहुत पैसा लगा रहा है, क्यों ना मैं खुद मेरा जेसीबी खरीद लूं. आपकी कंपनी का काम लैंड लेवलिंग का नहीं है, आपकी कंपनी का काम है फैक्ट्री डाल के लेट्स से कंप्यूटर्स बनाना है आपको, बट उसके लिए लैंड लेवल चाहिए. उसके ऊपर आप फैक्ट्री कंस्ट्रक्ट करोगे, आप खुद होके जेसीबी खरीदते हो. जेसीबी समझता है क्या? ऐसा एक मशीन रहता है ऐसा. सो यू परचेस अ जेसीबी, कंपनी का नाम है जेसीबी, कंसेप्ट नहीं है जेसीबी. सो आप एक जेसीबी खरीद लेते हो मशीन. दैट जेसीबी इज PPE used to develop the PPE. So asset used to develop the property plant equipment are also covered under this standard. ठीक है, और एक एग्जांपल. आपकी बहुत बड़ी फैक्ट्री है, उस फैक्ट्री में आप कार्स बनाते हो. कार इज नॉट अ S10 for you, car is an inventory for you. आपके पास बहुत सारे मशीन्स है, वो मशीन कभी ना कभी खराब हो सकता है. वो मशीन को रिपेयर करने के लिए आपके पास एक वेल्डिंग मशीन है. मशीन है, मशीन टूट सकता है, खराब हो सकता है, उसको ठीक करने के लिए आपके पास एक वेल्डिंग मशीन है. तो जहां पे भी खराब हो गया वहां पे जाकर स्पॉट लगाते हो. समझा? तो वो वेल्डिंग मशीन जो है इज नॉट यूज्ड इन production directly. Welding machine is used to repair or to maintain the main machine which is used in the production. That welding machine will also be covered. कहां पर लिखा है? Maintain. S10 also applies to PPE used to maintain the assets described above. Asset described मतलब assets to whom this standard applies. तो जो asset को ये standard apply होता है, उस असेट को तैयार करने के लिए या उस असेट को मेंटेन करने के लिए जो असेट यूज होता है वो भी S10 के अंदर आएगा. हाँ, खत्म नहीं हुआ अभी तक, स्कोप भी खत्म नहीं हुआ है. इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी. इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी इज बेसिकली रियल एस्टेट. इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी इज नथिंग बट इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द लैंड बिल्डिंग. इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी शुड बी अकाउंटेड for in accordance with the cost model prescribed in this standard. मतलब in simple language this standard is saying investment in land and buildings should be accounted for as per the cost model given below. आगे जाके हम दो मॉडल डिस्कस करने वाले, कॉस्ट मॉडल एंड रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल. मतलब रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल इज नॉट अलाउड फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी. इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी इज अ इन्वेस्टमेंट इन लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग. सरप्लस फंड से आपके पास, आपने कोई लैंड खरीद लिया उसका या बिल्डिंग खरीद लिया, दैट इज इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी. बट आपके बिजनेस के लिए आपने लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग खरीद लिया, दैट इज नॉट इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी. Investment property is land and building purchased as what? Investment. Land and building purchased as an investment is covered. Where it is covered? AS10. No. Land and building purchase as an investment is covered under AS13. बट AS13 के अंदर जो अकाउंटिंग करोगे उसके लिए ये स्टैंडर्ड का कॉस्ट मॉडल अप्लाई करो. लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग परचेज ये जाएगा AS13 के अंदर. लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग परचेस्ड फॉर ओन बिजनेस, फॉर यूज बाय अ बिजनेस, दैट विल बी कवर्ड अंडर AS10 ओनली. इसके लिए दोनों मॉडल ओपन हो गए. कॉस्ट मॉडल भी ओपन है और एक आगे जाके हम रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल, ये दोनों मॉडल मैंने डिस्कस नहीं किया. रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल, दोनों मॉडल अवेलेबल है. किसके लिए दोनों मॉडल अवेलेबल है? लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग परचेस फॉर योर ओन बिजनेस. लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग परचेस इज इन्वेस्टमेंट, AS13 में जाएगा. इसके लिए सिर्फ और सिर्फ कॉस्ट मॉडल एप्लीकेबल है. क्या मॉडल है आगे देखेंगे, खत्म नहीं हुआ. अब तक हमने सिर्फ स्कोप में क्या कवर्ड है क्या कवर्ड नहीं देखा. स्कोप का पहला लाइन अभी तक हमने समझा ही नहीं. एज अ जनरल प्रिंसिपल इट शुड बी अप्लाइड इन अकाउंटिंग ऑफ पीपी. व्हाट डीम्ड बाय पीपी? स्टैंडर्ड शुरू किया, लेकिन प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट का मतलब क्या है वो आ गया. मतलब यहां पर देयर आर टू कंडीशंस टू बी सेटिस्फाइड फॉर अ टेंजिबल आइटम टू बी कॉल्ड एज अ पीपी. Plant property equipment are tangible items these are tangible items that are held for use in the production or supply of goods or supply of services. These are tangible items which are held for use, not held for sell. Tangible items held for use is PPE. Tangible item held for sell is not PPE. Tangible items held for use in production or supply of the goods or supply of service. मतलब यहाँ पे बच्चों तीन टाइप के बिजनेसेस कवर किए. प्रोडक्शन मतलब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंटिटी, सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स मतलब ट्रेडिंग एंटिटी, सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विसेज मतलब सर्विस सेक्टर. एग्जाम्पल ले दो क्लासिकली ये कवर होने के बाद. Tangible PPE is a tangible item held for use in the production process or use in the supply of goods, held for use in the supply of services, and or it is held for rental to others, giving on rent to others. Giving on rent to others. Or for administrative purposes. Tangible items held for use or giving it on rent to others. Asset purchase करके किसी को रेंट पे देने का मेरा बिजनेस है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं जनरेटर परचेस करके रखा हुआ मैंने 50. जिस किसी का भी शादी है, शादी में जाके मैं जनरेटर चिपका के आता हूं वहां पर. तो अंधेरा नहीं होना चाहिए शादी में, प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. करेक्ट. बिजली चली गई तो वहां पे रोशनी आनी चाहिए, तो उसके लिए मैंने जनरेटर दे दिया वहां पर. So my job is to purchase generators and give it on a rent to the various persons at a time of, not necessarily शादी है, बिजनेस का प्रोग्राम है, कोई भी फंक्शन है जहां पर भी आपको जनरेटर चाहिए, जहां पर भी आपको रोशनी चाहिए, वहां पे हम आपको सप्लाई करेंगे. कंसेप्ट है. So those generators are PPE for me. खत्म नहीं हुआ. अभी एग्जाम्पल देखो. अरे बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स है. अभी तक मेरे 3-4 पैराग्राफ कवर कर रहे हैं, फिर मेरे एग्जाम्पल आएंगे. PPE is tangible asset held for use in the production process or supply of goods or supply of services or held for giving on rent to others or held for admin purposes. And it is likely to be used for more than 12 months. That is long term. If it is for less than 12 months, it is a current asset. It is not a PPE. So PPE is long term. That's what you are calling it as a fixed asset. इसलिए तो पहले स्टैंडर्ड का नाम क्या था? फिक्स एसेट था. Old standard did not have the name of PPE. Old standard had a name of what? Fixed asset. Good. Listen up. Example सुनो. I am dealer in Mercedes-Benz cars. I have 10 Mercedes-Benz cars. They are not PPE. They are held for sale. I am Yes Bank. For Mr. Rana, a managing director of our bank, we have purchased Mercedes-Benz Yes, let's say AMG edition. That is PPE for Yes Bank. Kyun? In order to provide services to the customers, our managing director requires a car. We have purchased AMG edition. किसने बोला कि नैनो ही खरीदना चाहिए? हमको बिजनेस में मैं कौन सी गाड़ी खरीदूं बिजनेस के लिए, वो आपका गवर्नमेंट का या लॉ का डिसीजन नहीं, मेरा पर्सनल डिसीजन है, प्रोप्राइटी मैटर है, प्राइवेट मैटर है. So a car purchased by a business entity for use in the course of the business is PPE, but a car purchased by a dealer also purchases a car from manufacturer, is not a PPE. So Mercedes-Benz के dealer के लिए Benz is not a PPE, but for business entity that car is a PPE. आप बोलेंगे सर PP प्लांट किधर हो गया? प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट. व्हीकल इज इक्विपमेंट ना. प्रॉपर्टी भी आपको क्या नाम देना, प्रॉपर्टी में भी फिट करो उसको, प्लांट में फिट करो, कहां भी फिट करो, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट आर टेंजिबल आइटम. प्रॉपर्टी मतलब आपके दिमाग में प्रॉपर्टी लैंड, हाँ. प्लांट मतलब वो मशीनरी वगैरह, इक्विपमेंट मतलब ऐसा कोई तो स्पेयर पार्ट वगैरह नहीं. Don't be under the impressions of the generic words of the property plant equipment. So what is the condition for being a property plant equipment? Number one, it should be held for use. Number two, it should be held for more than 12 months. Now use could be in administration, use could be in production, use could be in marketing, use could be in rendering services, use could be in trading of the goods. कहां पर use हो रहा है वो relevant नहीं है. Actual use is not necessary. It is intended to be used. Like business ने गाड़ी खरीदा लेकिन चलाया नहीं कभी भी. Still it is a PPE. Actual use किसने बोला? It is intended to be used for a business. गाड़ी लिया हमने लेकिन हमारे MD के पास 10 गाड़ी है. उनको AMG लिया उन्होंने लेकिन पसंद नहीं आया उनको AMG. ऐसे पड़ा हुआ. हो सकता है ना? क्यों नहीं हो सकता? बहुत सारे बिल्डिंग्स बिजनेसेस परचेस करते हैं लेकिन वहां पर ऑक्यूपेंसी नहीं होती है फॉर इयर्स टुगेदर. फॉर एग्जांपल रिलायंस रिटेल पुणे में मात्रे ब्रिज करके एरिया है, वहां पर उन्होंने 4 फ्लोर्स लेके रखे थे 2003 में. मॉल चालू हुआ 2016 में. 2003 से 2016 ऐसे ही पड़ा हुआ था. बिल्डिंग खरीद के रखा हमने फॉर यूज इन रिटेल एक्टिविटीज. लेकिन हमने एक्टिविटी कब चालू करना है मेरा डिसीजन है, तुम कौन होते हो? मैंने प्रॉपर्टी खरीद लिया तो कल से यूज करना चाहिए, किसने बोला? मुझे नहीं यूज करना है, मेरा बिजनेस रीजन है. फिर आप बोलोगे क्यों खरीदा? हु आर यू टू आस्क? हु आर यू टू आस्क? वंस एन एसेट इज इंटेंडेड टू बी यूज्ड, it qualifies to be a PPE. Actual use is not mandatory. It should be held for use. Held for use मतलब use is expected. वहां पे held for use लिखा है. It is used actually नहीं लिखा है. Intangible items are covered in AS 26. Admin purpose. Asset may be for administration purpose. Asset may not be necessarily for production. Admin purpose could be selling, distribution, finance, accounting, HR functions, personnel functions. कहां पर भी administration could be finance, legal, whatever. Okay. I am Sudarshan Chemicals. पुणे में एक कंपनी, लिस्टेड कंपनी है. नियर आरटीओ ऑफिस देयर इज ऑफिस ऑफ सुदर्शन केमिकल. पहले उनका फैक्ट्री भी वहां पर था. आरटीओ ऑफिस के बैक साइड पे वो मुला मुठा रिवर है, उनका संगम वहां पर होता है मेरे हिसाब से. कुछ तो सीओपी के बच्चे वहां पे जाके खेलते हैं, वो ईयर एंड में उनका कुछ तो प्रैक्टिस रहता है उधर. पूना का अगर आपको एरिया पता होगा तो आरटीओ ऑफिस के बाजू में. नाउ सुदर्शन केमिकल्स मेक्स वेरियस केमिकल्स and a lot of effluents are generated while manufacturing those chemicals. These effluents they were throwing it into the river for years together. Over the years, pollution laws in our country have undergone a change. Now the Pollution Control Board of India requires them to process those chemicals or process those effluents or process that contaminated water, and a processed water is only allowed to go to the river. अब वो वाटर का प्रोसेसिंग करने के लिए उनको कोई प्लांट लगाना पड़ता है. वो प्लांट अगर उन्हें लगाया, दैट इज नॉट एक्चुअली यूज इन द प्रोडक्शन सप्लाई, इट कैन बी स्टिल कॉल्ड एज अ पीपी. क्यों? एक्चुअल यूज इन मेन प्रोडक्ट, जो प्रोडक्ट बना रहा है केमिकल, उसमें केमिकल में ही यूज करना चाहिए, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. एनी प्रोडक्ट विच मे नॉट बी जनरेटिंग अ रेवेन्यू बट विच इज मैंडेटरी टू रन द बिजनेस. लाइक एफ्लुएंट प्रोसेसिंग प्लांट्स होते हैं बहुत सारे कंपनीज में. एफ्लुएंट समझता है क्या? बहुत सारे कंपनीज में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के लिए प्लांट होते हैं. एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली मेजर्स हमने किए. बहुत सारे कंपनीज में नॉइज रिडक्शन के लिए मशीन्स ली जाते हैं. कैनोपीज होते हैं. कैनोपी प्लांट है मेरा, प्लांट में बहुत सारा आवाज आ रहा है तो आवाज को कम करने के लिए ऊपर से कैनोपी बिठा दे. आपने डीजी सेट को घर पे कैनोपी, घर पे नहीं, आपके सोसाइटी में डीजी सेट होगा ना तो आवाज करता होगा, तो उसके बाजू में ऐसा कैनोपी बिठा दे उसको. क्या नॉलेज है तुम लोगों का, थर्ड क्लास. दैट कैनोपी इज ऑल्सो पीपी. इट इज नॉट एक्चुअली द असेट विच इज यूज in providing service. Any other asset which is basically to meet the safety or environment reasons is also covered as a PPE. The acquisition of such plant property equipment, although not directly increasing the future economic benefit of an existing item of PPE, may be necessary for an enterprise to obtain the future economic benefit from the other assets. Such items qualify for recognition as a PPE because they enable the enterprise to derive the future economic benefits. Other definitions we already done. Recognition criteria will come down. खत्म नहीं हुआ अभी तक. तो हमने सिर्फ क्या सीखा अब तक? Scope of the standard and some basic definitions we had done. Not all definitions. What is objective and what is the scope of the standard? What is covered and what is not covered? And some basic definitions we had done. Agriculture activity, agriculture produce, बेरर प्लांट हमने कर लिया है. ठीक है, बायोलॉजिकल एसेट कर लिया. बाकी के डेफिनेशंस हमने नहीं किए हैं, वो आगे जाके आएंगे. बिफोर वी गो टू रिकॉग्निशन, ये सब पॉइंट्स के ऊपर we should have a summary of all the points that I discussed. Summary of scope. Listen up. What is the scope of this particular standard? listen up carefully. First of all, I said it is applicable to property, plant, equipment, except A. Except what? A. A is PPE covered by other standards. अदर स्टैंडर्ड्स में क्या क्या कवर्ड एग्जांपल दिया मैंने बच्चों. एस 11 में अगर आप एक्सचेंज डिफरेंस जो आता है रिलेटेड टू द लोन टेकन ऑन फॉरेन, लोन टेकन फॉर परचेस ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी और प्लांट और इक्विपमेंट, वो जो एक्सचेंज डिफरेंस वो एस 11 में कवर्ड किया है. इंटरेस्ट एस 16 में कवर्ड किया है. अगर आप लीज पे प्रॉपर्टी लेते हो हायर परचेस पे, तो वो हायर परचेस पे प्रॉपर्टी का अकाउंटिंग एस 19 में कवर किया है. लीजेस और मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया था इम्पेयरमेंट लॉस का, which is covered by AS 28. So the issues which are covered by other standards will go to the other standards. अगर आपको प्रॉपर्टी गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट के थ्रू मिलती है तो AS 12 में कवर्ड है, अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 12. अगर आप प्रॉपर्टी मर्जर एक्विजिशन में खरीदते हो तो वो AS 14 में कवर्ड है. So if you acquire property on merger AS 14 through government grant AS 12, मर्जर एंड एक्विजिशन के थ्रू आपने प्रॉपर्टी लिया एस 40 में गया, लीज पे आपने प्रॉपर्टी लिया तो एस 19 में चला गया. ठीक है. सो द एरियाज विच आर कवर्ड बाय अदर स्टैंडर्ड्स, दिस स्टैंडर्ड विल नॉट कवर. बी, इट इज नॉट अप्लीकेबल टू बायोलॉजिकल असेट्स. बायोलॉजिकल असेट्स के दो पार्ट्स है बच्चों. बायोलॉजिकल एसेट्स में क्या क्या है? प्लांट एंड एनिमल्स covered by AS 10 if they meet definition, if they meet the definition of property, plant and equipment. प्लांट के अंदर दो टाइप्स के प्लांट्स होते हैं, bearer plant and others. Others are excluded from AS 10. They could be covered under the new standard related to agriculture once it comes up. Bearer plant, क्या था मीनिंग bearer plant का? It is expected to produce what? It produces agricultural output or produces agricultural produce. It is expected to there for more than 12 months. But the plant is for more than 12 months. Huh? Agriculture produce may not be more than for 12 months. More than 12 months. ये आपका agricultural produce रहेगा. So standard is not applicable to biological assets. Standard is also not applicable to vesting assets. Except लिख रहा हूं मैं, except A, B, C. So applicable to property, plant, equipment. अभी ये property, plant, equipment का definition क्या था? These are assets held for use in production, held for use in supply of goods, held for use in supply of services held for rent, held for use in giving on rent to others. शादी का एग्जाम्पल लिया था. Held for admin purpose, held for safety or environment reasons, held for use in, the first condition क्या था, assets which are held for use in these things for more than 12 months. This was a basic point that we did, first point in the scope. The other issues that we did in the scope: standard applies to assets used to develop oblique maintain PPE. असेट डेवलप करने के लिए या मेंटेन करने के लिए जो असेट यूज होता है पीपी मेंटेन करने के लिए, they are also covered by virtue of this particular standard. I hope you understood that. So standard applies to the assets that are used to develop or maintain the property, plant, equipment. It, see, मैंने सब कुछ कवर किया कि नहीं? ये कवर कर लिया, बायोलॉजिकल एसेट्स कवर कर लिया, वेस्टिंग एसेट कवर कर लिया. इट डज नॉट अप्लाई टू एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोड्यूस, ये कवर नहीं किया, कवर करेंगे. डेवलप पॉइंट कवर कर लिया, इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी कवर करना है, डेफिनेशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट कवर कर लिया, बायोलॉजिकल एसेट कवर कर लिया, बेरर प्लांट कवर कर लिया, सब कुछ कवर कर लिया. सो स्टैंडर्ड does not apply to agricultural produce. It does not apply to agricultural produce. Investment property, क्या मतलब था इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी का बच्चों? लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग हेल्ड फॉर यूज नहीं बच्चों, हेल्ड एज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट. आपका इरादा बिजनेस करना नहीं है, जस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए परचेस किया, इज कवर्ड अंडर AS 13, but cost model of this standard should be applied. So I hope you are pretty much clear with the introduction part. अब ये डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया था तो भी आपको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता था, पता ही नहीं आपका स्कोप क्या है. तो अभी मैं और कुछ एग्जांपल देता हूं, ओरली आंसर करना है आपको. हैव यू कम अप टू दिस? Can I go ahead? Shall I go ahead? Listen to the example. I am a electricity मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी. मैंने टरबाइन लगाया हुआ है एक हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक स्टेशन के लिए. टरबाइन लगाया हुआ है डैम पे. विल दैट टरबाइन बी प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट? आई एम अ ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी. आई हैव परचेज बसेस. विल इट बी अ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट? यस. बसेस आर यूज बाय मी. ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी मतलब क्या मैं बस बेचने के लिए नहीं खरीदा है. I am a bank. I have purchased furniture for office use. Is it a property plant equipment? Yes. I am a transport company. I have purchased a software for the purpose of issuing tickets to the passengers. Is it a property plant equipment? Yes, बोल रहा है illiterate public. Property plant equipment is a tangible item. Software is a tangible item. A third class. Tangible दिखता नहीं आपको. स्टैंडर्ड शुरू करने के पहले 3 बार बोला था only tangible assets are covered here. I am a video production company. We have purchased high-end cameras for shooting in the movies. Whether these video cameras are property plant equipment? Yes. They are held for providing service. I am Dabur. We have got trees which make क्या डाबर का एक प्रोडक्ट आ रहा है च्यवनप्राश के लिए. च्यवनप्राश नहीं, डाबर का इमली के जैसा कुछ होता है. ओके, दूसरा एग्जांपल देता हूं. I am Century Ply. We have a farm to make trees available for cutting to make a plywood. We have done the plantation of those trees. Will those trees be PPE? No. Answer is no, because they are not bearer plant. They are not a bearer plant. They are biological asset. They are excluded from this particular standard right now. So right now they will be covered by generally accepted accounting principles. I am Tata Global Beverages. We have a tea garden in Assam. Will that tea garden be PPE? Yes, because that tea garden is a bearer plant. I am ITC. I have got a sugarcane farm to make molasses to be used in manufacturing of शुगर केन का फार्म है, उससे हम मोलासेस क्रिएट करते हैं. मोलासेस से हम शेविंग क्रीम या आफ्टर शेव लोशन क्रिएट करते हैं. आफ्टर शेव लोशन में मोलासेस का जो डिस्टिलरी का इक्विपमेंट होता है वो यूज होता है. मोलासेस में अल्कोहल भी रहता है. आफ्टर शेव लोशन देखोगे उसमें अल्कोहल रहता है, कभी कंटेंट्स पढ़ लेना, पीने की कोशिश मत करना, अल्कोहल के जैसे बाकी की चीजें भी रहते हैं. Will that be called as agriculture, or will that be PPE? That sugarcane farm, will it be PPE? Answer is no. It's not a bearer plant. Sugarcane itself is agricultural produce. तो हमारे लिए इन्वेंट्री बन गया वो. I am Aditya Birla Nuvo. We have got a huge cotton farm. And from that cotton farm, we are going to make yarn, and then we make a fabric. Process कुछ पता होगा तो. And then we make shirts or suitings on our own. Will that cotton farm be PPE for Aditya Birla Nuvo? Answer is no. Cotton farm is not a bearer plant. Cotton farm जो होता है, it doesn't hold the produce for more than 12 months. आपको थोड़ा बहुत जानकारी चाहिए कॉटन का. जैसे wheat और maize था, which are for less than 12 months, cotton भी ऐसे less than 12 months का प्रोडक्ट होता है. वो आपको थोड़ा जानकारी का बेसिक प्रॉब्लम है. I am a restaurant chain. We have produced or we have purchased a handheld device to be given to the captains to procure and to take the orders from the customers. And those orders are synchronized through a software directly with the kitchen. So, whether the purchase of these handheld devices by a restaurant chain is a property, plant, equipment under AS10. Software. I'll answer. I am a software company. We have purchased 200 laptops for our employees. Whether the purchase of laptop is PPE. These laptops have pre-installed system software in the form of Windows 10 operating system. Will these laptops be PPE? Total price of a laptop is 75,000 rupees per laptop, which includes 23,000 for operating system and other Microsoft Office productivity suites. Will this purchase of laptop be a property, plant, equipment? Will it be a PPE for entire 75,000 or will it be 75 minus 23? How much? 52,000. How many of you say it is PPE for 75,000? How many say it is a PPE for 52,000? How many say it is a PPE for 23,000? Correct answer is it is a property, plant, equipment for the entire 75,000. What you have purchased is a laptop. उसमें software आया, मैं क्या करूँ? What is important is there are some assets where there are tangible as well as intangible items. What matters is what gives the identity to that particular product. Does the software give identity or a hardware gives identity? So जब आप लैपटॉप परचेस करते हो तो you have purchased लैपटॉप, अब उसमें बहुत सारे सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल रहेंगे. So you cannot do a bifurcation of the price. हाँ, अगर आपने लैपटॉप अलग से खरीद लिया और सॉफ्टवेयर अलग से खरीद लिया तो फिर then that software will not come up under the head property, plant, equipment. I am Yes Bank. We need server for installation of core banking application. We have purchased a server for core banking application. Is this a property, plant, equipment under AS10? How many say yes? How many say no? Majority says no. Majority is illiterate. Server is a hardware. Correct answer is it is a property, plant, equipment. Server मतलब मशीन रहता है. वो पर्पसफुली मैंने कोर बैंकिंग एप्लीकेशन, अरे मैंने कोर बैंकिंग सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं खरीदा, मैंने सर्वर खरीदा है. अगर मैं पूछता हूं कि आपने इन्फोसिस से फिनैकल विच इज अ कोर बैंकिंग एप्लीकेशन लिया, देन दैट विल गो टू AS26. I am a school. We need buses for transportation of students who are not our employees. We have purchased buses. Will the purchase of buses be property, plant, equipment? Yes, no? I am a not-for-profit school. I am a NGO. I am BMCC. Not for profit. I am Symbiosis, not for profit. We have purchased buses for transportation of the students. Will these buses be a property, plant, equipment? How many say yes? How many say no? These will be property, plant, equipment. Profit, for profit or not for profit doesn't make a difference. Standards are equally applicable to profit organizations and not for profit. I am Big Cinema. We have purchased Dolby Digital Audio System. Is it a property, plant, equipment? Answer is yes. It's expected to be used. I am ICAI. We have purchased paper of 30 crore rupees for the purpose of printing of study materials. Is purchase of this paper a property, plant, equipment? How many say yes? How many say no? Majority public is illiterate. Correct answer is no. अरे आपने पेपर खरीदा. How the hell it is? Fixed asset. Purchase of paper is a current asset. It's an inventory for you. If you say purchase of paper is a fixed asset, I think you are out of your mind. Purchase of paper by a educational institute is an inventory for them. How come it is held for use in the production process or not held for sale? अब ये जो मटेरियल आपको सेल करता है इंस्टीट्यूट, आप बोल सर कहाँ पर फ्री में दिया उन्होंने, अरे जो प्राइस है उसके अंदर लगाया वो मटेरियल. दैट मटेरियल इज नॉट हेल्ड फॉर यूज बाय द इंस्टीट्यूट. I am Pune University. We have a Jaikar library in that. We have purchased books of 20 lakhs. Is these books a PPE? Answer is yes, because books are life of more than 12 months. They are expected to be used for more than 12 months. They are held in providing a services. सर्विस आप फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट दे दो या स्पेसिफिकली चार्ज करो या बंडल्ड सर्विस प्रोवाइड करो, टोटल सर्विस चार्जेस में लगाओ, इज इमटेरियल. आई एम प्राइस वाटरहाउस कूपर्स. I am PwC. Okay, I am Tata Motors. We have purchased fabric for giving uniform to the employees. I am Tata Motors. We have purchased a fabric to make a uniform to the employees. Whether the purchase of this fabric or the making uniform of this would be called as a property, plant, equipment. Answer is no, because normally such uniforms do not have a life of more than 12 months. You could say, sir, क्या 2 साल तक रहते हैं? Normally कोई ऐसे बोलता नहीं एम्प्लॉय के 2 साल तक ये यूनिफॉर्म पहनना है आपको. कोई करता नहीं ऐसे. Though some employees could use it for more than 1 year. So these are expensed out. They are treated as an expenditure for that particular year. Last one. I am DLF. We have purchased land for the purpose of constructing a building and making flats out there. I am DLF. Whether the purchase of land is property, plant, equipment. How many say no? How many say yes? It is no. DLF ने लैंड खरीदा. DLF के लिए लैंड वो हेल्ड फॉर यूज नहीं है, हेल्ड फॉर सेल है. लैंड के फॉर्म में सेल नहीं करोगे आप, लैंड को फ्लैट में कन्वर्ट करके बेचने वाले हो ना. It could take time of more than 12 months, it doesn't matter. I am Asian Paints. We want to set a factory in Pune. For that we have acquired 20-acre land. It is a property, plant, equipment, because that land is expected to be used in the production process. समझा गया? इंटरेस्टिंग है ना. बाकी चीजें कल देखते हैं.